On Friday, February 12th, I said good morning to him. He was in the bed, he was on his computer, and it was a virtual learning day. I was headed out the door for work, would be home by lunch. I asked him how he was. I'm great. I said, wow, you're already on your computer. Yeah, I'm getting an early start so I can be done early. I said, I got it. I love you. There's food in the fridge. I'll see you at lunch. See you then, Mom. That was the last time I talked to my son. When I came home from lunch that day, of course, we found a horror that we will never forget. He was gone, and he had made the decision to take his own life.
It was last June 8th, 2020, two police officers showed up at my house wanting to speak with myself and my husband. They sat us down in our living room and said, your son has been found deceased. Obviously at that point, the floor went out from underneath us.
This cause is very important to me, simply because my daughter attempted suicide 3 times. As a parent, I didn't know what to do. So I did a lot of research and a lot of looking on the internet and everywhere else trying to find help. And in that process, I came across the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Since then, I've been trained on a number of areas, but I learned as a parent a tremendous amount of information. She is now very stable. We were able to help her. She is actually a volunteer with AFSP as well and helps put on our Out of the Darkness walk in Statesville every year.
You know, we've had about 5 suicides in the last year from current or former students, and I work with kids and parents on a weekly basis, dealing with prevention work around depression and suicide, and I'm frequently referring students to outpatient counseling clinics in the area, also to Children's Hope Alliance, who does school-based counseling here, and other intervention work. So it's something that's on my radar each week.
I think that we've seen an uptick in at least suicidal ideation, not necessarily in attempts, over the last couple of years. We've seen more red flags within this last year with all of the isolation that's occurred with COVID protocols that have been put in place. And I think generally what we've seen is, on the positive end, suicide is being talked about a little bit more. And it's not becoming so taboo to mention that word. But on the flip side, we're still seeing an uptick in youths who are having that ideation and who are considering that as an option for themselves. So with ideation, that's where you see initial thoughts about suicide as an option. That's where you see, how would I do it? When would I do it? Would I even do it? One of the biggest ways kids come into our care for ideation is parents noticing something is different and something is off. I think the first thing is to name it. The first thing is to say, have you been thinking about hurting yourself? I mean, it's going to incite some fear within you as a parent, absolutely, to talk about it, but nothing would be scarier than not talking about it and having your child take their own life.
It's very important that if you think there is suicidal ideation, you ask the child the question. And it took all my strength to ask my daughter, are you thinking of killing yourself? You have to ask that question, and you have to be white-knuckled about waiting for that answer. And her answer was yes. When I got that answer, chills went through me, but I had to be strong for her.
Something's going on with our kids and our young people. Something very tragic and very sad that leaves them the thought of no other solution other than to take their life. And a lot of people say, I would have said, no, this could never happen to our family. It can. I hope it doesn't. I pray it doesn't. But I've also been told that for every one child who has completed this, and I use child meaning ages 14 to 24, for every one who completes, There are 25 who have tried. I'm not just one mother. I'm not just Ginger Finley. It's just not my son, Houston Finley. He represents 25 other children who have felt backed into a corner with no other choice.
He had no typical warning signs. He wasn't withdrawn. He called us. I just spoke to him the night before. So I think it's a deeper problem. And in that moment of desperation when he made that decision, that's where I wish he would have been able to call someone. Or, as parents, we didn't talk to our kids about suicide because it was something that always happened to somebody else. So I just want to make sure that families are equipped to talk to their kids. And I think some of the questions we had with the suicide, why didn't you call us? There was a simple note in his phone that just said, let my mom know. And we still, I don't know if we still cope or not. We have good days, we have bad days. One of the first things I thought as a principal was, I'm a principal of kids, or parents gonna want their kids to come to my school because I couldn't do the job for my own kid.
At the time that she attempted suicide, I did not understand any warning signs or risk factors. I was totally uneducated. I was angry with her for being what I thought in my mind was being very selfish and thinking only of how she could get herself out of this pain. And instead, I should have been putting myself under her skin and realizing that she was doing what she thought was right for me, so I wouldn't have the pain. If you look at all the warning signs, and there are 14 warning signs of possible suicide, she had all 14. I didn't know the single one because I had not been trained. I did not know anything about suicide or suicide prevention, but in my mind, she was doing something that was very selfish. Once I learned the warning signs and we were able to get my daughter help, then we were able to make progress, and the medication was stabilized and her counseling was implemented, and I realized that all those things I realized that she was doing that were warning signs were starting to go away. And so she was healing.
What can be scary for parents in the community is knowing that if it's happened once, if someone's thought about it once, that now we need to have eyes on this person for the rest of their life, and they're doomed to this life where they're pegged as this person who's always thinking about suicide, and that's just not true. With the right help and the right resources, it may be a one-time thing, or it may be something that is monitored. It just depends on the person, but you're not doomed to a life of thinking about suicide, having had it happen to you once.
I just want to tell parents that you are one of my best partners in the work that I do, and your students are also one of the best partners that I have in the work that I do. Many of the referrals that I have in working with students comes from students and parents, or other people who are concerned maybe about your kid. And I had 3 kids come up through this district as well, and I'm very grateful for the mentors and other concerned people in their lives that brought things to my attention.
I think the best advice I can give parents is to be a super sleuth, especially of teenagers. Look at the search history on their laptops. Look at their search, what they're looking at on their phones. I know you're violating privacy, but I read my daughter's journal. If I had not done that, I might not have my daughter today.
We wake up every day, and that's the first thing I think of is I have to remind myself, Houston's not here. What does that look like? You wake up in the middle of the night to just get a drink of water or to go to the bathroom, and that's what bubbles up. He's not here. I feel like I have a hole, a physical hole in my body that will never grow back, that will never fill in. And I miss him. I miss him. I miss talking to him. There's conversations you had with Houston that you didn't have with anybody else. And you miss that. You miss that.
Don't assume, like we did, that it won't happen to your kids. Talk to your kids about suicide prevention, where to go when you're in crisis. Talk to them just about what they're interested in. Talk to them and get a sense of, you know them best, get a sense of where they are mentally, where they are spiritually, so that way if you feel that they need help, that's okay. And it's okay to get counseling, it's okay to talk to somebody. And as a parent, it's okay to say they're not really responding to me, so maybe they should reach out and get some help for those kids.